It is Sunday school. Excuse me. Uh, Welcome to Sunday school, everyone. It's a beautiful June morning here in Sacramento. We're right next door to a beautiful sort of classic California Spanishy kind of a Lutheran church, which it doesn't seem to be functioning at all, but it certainly gives atmosphere to the neighborhood, which I really like. But the reason I even brought that up, the pollen, and there's more trees in Sacramento than there is even in Paris, France, which is a wonderful thing. It's beautiful in the summertime. It's so shady and nice in many of the streets. But the pollen is really crazy, and it goes through waves of different kinds of pollen, and Constance is really sensitive to allergies and things like that. And I'm not so, but this morning I walked to coffee and came back. Yes, dear.
I was just going to say something. Yes, I have been pollinated.
Constance reminds us she's been pollinated. I guess that's what makes her a Pollyanna. But anyway, so if I have to pause every once in a while and cough, I don't think I'm coming down with anything other than the neighborhood air. Okay. Today I want to talk about the anti-primal triad, which is not God. And I know you've all been wondering about it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk a little bit more than that, actually. But it's chapter 0 of Crowley's The Book of Lies. And the whole title of the Book of Lies is, let me see here, if I can get which is also falsely called Breaks. Okay, it's it's one of the first Aleister Crowley books that I bought, and very early hardbound edition. Bought it at Pickwick Bookstore in Costa Mesa, California, and it's sort of advertised the Masonic secrets and a masterpiece of this and that. And I said, well, I'll finally get to understand Crowley. And to tell you the truth, it didn't make me understand Crowley very much, and it'd be many, many, many years of, I'm going to take a sip here, many years of studying Thelema and everything before I recognized the true, absolute brilliance of the work. It's in 91 one-page chapters, okay? And if you get the Kindle edition, you don't get too many of the commentaries on it, which the full edition does. But it's enough. And if you get the Kindle edition, this is kind of what the chapters look like. Okay, this is chapter 0, and that's what we're going to talk about this today. Now, many of us are familiar with this diagram or this schematic of consciousness and the universe, everything. You can just wrap up everything and shove it in one of those circles or one of those paths. But surrounding that is a pre-manifestation dynamic. If you can imagine three ovals or circles of negativity that surround this whole thing, you'd have sort of the whole Kabbalistic ball of wax three kinds of nothing that precede number one, and number one proceeding to reflect itself, and on and on. The way I've repeated so much that I'm sure you're sick of it, until the entire process of the devolution of consciousness from Godhead up there in number one to your head down here in number 10, and all of these little hints of how you raise your head kind of step by step until you've got that level of consciousness there in number 6. That's Holy Guardian Angel consciousness, or Christ consciousness, or cosmic consciousness. Everybody's talking about it. Every culture has a different name for it. And then once you've got that, then you raise your consciousness very, very step by step further until you cross that area there between this area right here, between this first big triangle and the rest of the tree. That's the abyss. Okay, that's where you can't take your meat brain. You can't think your way into Godhead. Okay, you gotta step out there and take the chance that you've got to leave behind even the machinery of what you've always thought was yourself. And you can't think yourself across the abyss, is what I'm saying. And your thinking process, your ruach, is so invested in convincing you your entire life that that's you. You know, what you can think you are, that's you, the ruach says. And but the illumination that you get on the other side or above the abyss is that no, you're much bigger than that, you know, and that's your neshama, okay. But anyway, the most enigmatic of these chapters from the Book of Lies is this number 1 chapter. And I'm simply going to show it to you first. There's a 0 and an exclamation mark. Okay, and then there's a footnote there. But then it says the Ante Primal Triad, which is not God. So that's that. The 3 veils of the negative. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Nothing is, nothing becomes, nothing is not. Kabbalists who had just lots of time on their hands, obviously, said, well, 0 comes before 1, but it's really hard for us to wrap our minds around 0 because there's a 0 that's just so 0 you can't talk about it. Then there's a 0 that you can talk about. And then there's the realization that that 0 is actually nothing. So it's nothing is. Okay, so that's a nothing is. Nothing becomes. And then nothing is not. And when you say nothing is not, the same thing happens in consciousness that happens in language. It's a double negative. And that double negative, nothing is not, is the exact same thing as saying something is, or everything is. Same thing. And that everything, that nothing is, nothing becomes, nothing is not. That double negative means everything is, and it creates number one. Can you see that happening? And then number one goes into its act to develop into the entire tree of life. So this first triad here gets born out of that nothing is not. Okay, and here's how I set it up for a Monday night class. This handout, I misspelled anti, and put another extra A in it. But the anti-primal triad, which is not God. And so I'm trying to show those veils of the negative. There's nothing is, which is ain. And then nothing becomes, Kabbalists call that Ein Sof. And then nothing is Ein Sof Or. Now the nature of nothing being what it isn't, we could even back that up and label nothing is not Ein, nothing becomes, and then nothing is. I like that one better. Okay. And then that snapshots into creating, it collapses upon itself as it identifies it. As the double negative becomes a positive, it creates one. And Crowley calls that the first triad. And the first triad is I am. And number two, I utter the word. That'd be like Shiva, okay, or Therian, or the Logos, okay, or the beast. I hear the word is number three. And that'd be like Shakti or Babylon or Nuit. Number one, two would be, Hadith, and number. Okay. That's the first triad, which is God, I am. I utter the word. I hear the word. Then there's an abyss. Okay. That first triad, as I just said in like yesterday's talk, that first triad is just one thinking about itself. Okay, it's a unit. It's a Trinity unit. Okay. Now that whole Trinity unit's going to reflect itself, just like I am reflected into I utter the word up there in the. Okay, the whole triad's going to reflect itself. But the mirror image, or the mirror that it passes through in order to reflect itself from the unmanifest into the manifest, is the abyss, where it says the word is broken up. There is knowledge, and knowledge is relation. These fragments are creation. The broken manifests light. Now, reasons is a good thing, and knowledge is a good thing, okay? Especially when you're thinking from machinery from down here, okay? Knowledge is really great. It's the highest thing, it's the highest thing while you're still hanging on to the meat machinery of reason. So don't get me wrong. When I hear people trashing Da'ath, which is the what they call it, a false Sephirah, but it's that's sort of a, give it a break. Doth is Doth, and Da'ath is knowledge, and it's the height of knowledge. It's the highest you can think your way into enlightenment. As a matter of fact, it's a form of enlightenment itself. Certainly one that the rest of us can identify with down here. But the abyss, the word is broken up. Okay, that's the word we first heard down there, number 2. It's broken up. There is knowledge. Knowledge is relation. Oh, I know about that. I that. Ooh, I learn something. I read a book. These fragments are creation. The broken manifests light. And I'm going to see if I can read my Kindle thing here. The footnote for that is the unbroken, that's up here, absorbing all is called darkness. The broken manifests light. Okay, hang on. So that second triad, right down there, or right there, 4, 5, and 6, second triad, which is called God. God the Father is concealed in generation. That'd be number 4 on the tree of life. God the Father and Mother is concealed in generation. Then number 5, God is concealed in the whirling energy of nature. And then number 6, which is a direct reflection here of the I am. It's sort of the mirror image of I am. God is manifest in gathering, harmony, consideration, the mirror of the sun and of the heart. And then just like number 3 here, up there, I hear the word after the word was uttered. Number 3 in the triad units is bearing, preparing, wavering, flashing, stability, begetting. So the third triad. So number 7 would be bearing, preparing. 8 would be wavering, flowing, flashing. And then it's even called the foundation, number 9, stability, begetting. And the 10th emanation is the world. That's the chapter 0 tree of life. Let's see, I'm going to share just a little bit of Crowley's commentary, and then we'll call it a day for Sunday school. The chapter, which is chapter 0, is not a chapter. This chapter number 0 corresponds to the negative, which is before Kether in the Kabbalistic system. Now, there's a chapter in the Book of Lies that's right before this one, and that chapter is titled, it just has a question mark and an exclamation point. And he says, the notes of interrogation and exclamation on the previous pages are the two veils. The meaning of these symbols is fully explained in The Soldier and the Hunchback, with the soldier being the exclamation mark and the hunchback being the... Okay. This chapter begins by the letter 0, followed by a mark of exclamation. Now, perhaps I need to draw you a picture. The chapter title is a 0 and an exclamation mark. Well, I guess it'll be like that, okay? Or 0 and an exclamation point. Now, everything isn't a dirty entendre of Crowley's, but that's a pretty universal thing here, okay? When the Dionysians went around going, yo, 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 okay? They're going, yeah, mate with me, God. I want to mate with God, okay? That's 0 exclamation point. Hope the neighbors didn't hear that. That just ruined my reputation. Okay. Chapter begins with a 0 followed by a mark of exclamation. It's references to the theogony of Liber Legis, or the Book of the Law, explained in the note, but it also refers to the Ketis. That's a Greek word. It means like a comb, but it's the vagina and the delta area of the female sexual equipment, and phallos, just like Lon said when he made his dirty gesture. But it also refers to the ketis, phallos, and sperma, and is the exclamation of wonder or ecstasy, which is the ultimate nature of things. Yo, yo, yo. Okay. So up at the top there would be like silence, and then nuit, and hadit, and rahur kuit. The anti-primal triad is the negative trinity. Its three statements are, in an ultimate sense, identical. In other words, nothing is, nothing becomes, nothing is not. That's why you can read them coming and going. Its three statements are, in an ultimate sense, identical. They harmonize being, becoming, and not being, the three possible modes of conceiving the universe. The statement, nothing is not, technically is equivalent to something is fully explained in the essay called Bereshit. That's another, that's, I think, found in the collected works. The rest of the chapter follows the Sephirotic system of the Kabbalah and constitutes a sort of quintessential comment on that system. Those familiar with that system will recognize Kether, Hokmah, Binah in the first triad, Da'ath in the abyss, Hesed, Geburah, Tifereth in the second triad, and Netzach, Hod, and Yesod in the third triad, and Malkuth in the 10th emanation. It will be noticed that this cosmology is very complete. The manifestation, even God does not appear until Tifereth. Even God doesn't appear until Tifereth. Now, there are 8 paths leading to Tifereth, like 8 legs of a spider. And the bulbous body of the spider is number 6. So, when, say, in a mystical meditation as your consciousness first starts to break through to that level, the idea that you might be confronted with a huge spider. I'm thinking in the Thief of Baghdad story where he has to fight this spider, or the Sinbad, I forget which one. Tifereth, when you're not looking hard enough at it, the terror of the threshold of Tifereth is often a spider. Okay, I digress. God does not appear until Tifereth, and the universe itself until Malkuth, number 10. This chapter, the chapter, many therefore be considered as the most complete treatise on existence ever written. Okay. Now, if you take him at his word, that is the coolest explanation of existence ever written. And when you can wrap your meat brain around it, or approach wrapping your meat brain around it, you may actually be able to hear the word and realize you said the word. Because the whole thing is I am. Nothing is not. Nothing becomes. Nothing is. Buddha would just have loved this. And that's my Sunday school lesson for today. Continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other, have a wonderful new week, and I hope I'll be able to be with you every morning next week. Until then, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.